Hello, let me welcome you in this open Q&A session. And before I start the session for you, let me share the screen. It's my first experience with YouTube, so something new. As I am new here, I'm waiting for you to join. It would be excellent if you write me a message in the chat so that I can see that you can also see me and you can hear me and that you have actually joined. I can see the first hello in the chat. That's beautiful. Oh, beautiful. Thank you, Aga. Thank you, Alexandra. Hmm. If you are in the meeting, it would be perfect if you just write hello in the chat so that I know that you've been able to join. It's just my technical anxiety, if I may. Hmm. Katarzyna, yes, you are a confirmation that the link has worked. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Lovely. Wiesława, Francisco, thank you so much. Now I feel encouraged and I know that the session has worked. As I mentioned, it's the first time I deliver in YouTube, so there is always this technical anxiety of how the tool exactly works. Let me open the session now. So today, we will be talking about what do foreigners really think about Polish people, and by really think, I mean really, what do they think about Polish people? And this is actually one of the questions that very frequently come up in our projects about managing and cooperating across cultures. Obviously, these questions mostly come from Polish participants who are very interested to know how we as Polish people are perceived. Myself, I am Polish, and I've also been exposed to these questions in the past myself. I was just a student when I had the first opportunity of exploring what people from other countries and other nations think about us as about Polish people. I remember the first one, which came from an Italian colleague of mine, a fellow student in Finland, and she asked, "Do you have TV in Poland?" So maybe that was a question that was. How to say, that was in some minds a very long time ago. But now, working in global business, I also encounter many question marks of how to cooperate with Polish people, how to deal well with Polish people. This is why I'm focusing on this particular question today. I represent a training and consulting people development company, which is called ETTA. It's all about global connections. Let's do it better. So it's a funny play with words. We do work with international leaders, with international teams. We help global organizations work together more effectively and avoid the frustration of some cultural misunderstandings. And obviously, we also develop individuals, especially when it comes to the competences of the future. We are very glad to be the development partner of many organizations that are active internationally and globally in the global economy. So, why would it be relevant to know what they think about us Polish people? I think the biggest point really is to know the starting point and manage the perception. So, if I know the starting point, what the other culture, nationality, what the other people think about us, Polish people, I would probably be more um, ready to manage these perceptions. Yes, to be aware of how these perceptions look like, and in the end result, to ensure good intercultural cooperation. And this drives me to the question of what you have actually encountered in your international experiences. What statements did you hear about Polish people? Now, in a moment, you will be able to see a link in the chat, a link to Menti. It has been pasted by Aga Lesińska. She is our technical producer in the session today, a member of ETTA team. Please do go into the Menti, please do enter the Menti and share with us anonymously what statements did you hear about Polish people. Okay, why do we want to do it? For the purpose of exploration, but also to see whether what you have heard is similar to what other people participating in this session today have heard before. So let's go to Menti and let's share what statements did you hear about Polish people? Well, don't worry if they are stereotypes. Is basically many of these might be stereotypes, but some of them might also be some curious, interesting, or surprising items, like the one I shared with you in the beginning of the session. So, what is it? What is it for you? My intention is to share the Mentimeter for you. Okay, let's go. I'm already sharing, and the first answer has already appeared. I can see that some of you are already contributing. Let's see some of your answers. And what I can read here, the hot headed, I interpret this as hasty. Yes, hasty meaning being in a hurry. Yes, maybe it's about emotions. Yes, they get emotional very quickly. The Polish people. Okay, they are hardworking. Okay, so very dedicated to work, spend long hours at work, deliver good quality. Maybe that's how I read that. Straight to the point. Yes, so very frontal, very direct. Maybe I read this also maybe as a little bit of a shocking. Okay, what else? Hardworking again, direct. Yes, so this seems to be repeating. Focus on the world word, on the world word. On the world war. Okay, on the World War II. Yes, so focus on the past, focus on the history. Yes, the historical heritage is such a big topic. Yes, it is also. It is also what you have heard, connected to families, connected to families. Yes, so it means that the family life, the social life seems also to be very important. Now, the interesting question might be whether these are true or these are just stereotype. And I am even curious to know who did you hear these answers from. Okay, because it also can matter. And transactional. Yes, so focus on business. Yes, let's get to the point. So again, in line with the direct communication in this Q&A session today, I want to tell you about, I want to give you the answer, yes? And the answer comes from cultural perspectives. Cultural perspectives. I will be referring to cultural dimensions. Cultural dimensions, they will help us understand what do foreigners really think about Polish people. And I want to introduce you to Gerd Hofstede, who actually is a godfather of cultural research. So, luckily, when we look for the answer for the question of what are Polish people really like, we don't have to guess we don't have to rely on stereotype. There is a good bunch of research on working and cooperating, but also living together across cultures. Yes, Gerd Hofstede ran the first global research where he was investigating cultural diversity. It was as long ago as in the 70s or in the 80s, I think, and he was working for IBM, which at that time was already a global company, and he discovered that people working for IBM face the same challenges everywhere. Yes, the same challenges are everywhere. Just the approach to solving these challenges is so different. It can be so various. Yes, so this is what Gerd Hofstede has discovered, and the beauty of working in the intercultural field is that I actually had an opportunity of meeting many of the major researchers and contributor to this field. At that time, I was in a scientific conference on working across culture. Obviously, you can see from my face that it was a bunch of years ago, and Gerd Hofstede, unfortunately, is not with us anymore. But anyway, I appreciated this meeting very much. He was the first one to give an idea that cultures actually are similar, but also like sliding between some dimensions. Here you can see zippers, which you can slide, you can open, you can close them. The position of the head of the zipper can be on the left, can be in the middle, can be on the right. And this is a metaphor how I encourage you to look at cultural dimensions. So, what are cultural dimensions? They represent differences in the approach of people from different cultures to various aspects of life, and they are usually dispersed along a given dimension. Yes, so I will tell you in a moment that I will give you an example what these dimensions are. For example, approach to family. Yes, are we family oriented or are we oriented on the individual life? It might be one of these dimensions, and this would be a dimension of individualism and collectivism. Yes, and the cultures might be spread around these directions. Just like in the slide here, as an example, how do people in this culture build trust? uh, well, the fact is that there is no culture that would only build trust from the heart, yes, from how I feel about you. Also, there is no culture that would build the trust on the head, yes. So how I see you deliver. We are always somewhere in between, but our position on the zipper might be somewhere else. So, what are some of the dimensions of culture? I will show you in a moment, but before that, I want to let you know one little thing. I will be showing you positions of countries on dimensions, but look at how the social research, how the cultural research is done. You research a number of people, you check what they answer, and this is usually what you get. You get a range of answers, and some of them repeat more frequently than others. What you get on the scale as a result is this top point, yes, this median or maybe the average. This is what you get in the as the result. But when you look at the society, when you look at a particular person from Polish culture, from British culture, from Italian culture, you would normally need to remember that there is a bunch of answers around the central point. Yes, it's actually very similar to looking at the GDP per capita. Yes, the gross domestic product. I opened the Wikipedia yesterday and I'm reading Poland economy ranks the number 19 worldwide in terms of GDP per capita, 20 in terms of GDP nominal. And the question is, what does it tell you about the person that you meet? You can have an idea of the average, wealth in the country, but it doesn't really tell you how much this particular person has in the pocket, obviously. So these cultural dimensions give you a guidance, but it can never really instruct you about a person that you meet. And actually, they are also the source of the biggest source of stereotypes. For example, even when we look at the gross domestic product, yes, per capita, we can see, okay, this is a rich country, this is not a rich country. This is how stereotypes appear. It does not mean that a particular person is wealthy or not. Okay, now that you know this, and it's very important, I can show you data from such research. I will actually be showing data from the research of Erin Meyer. Erin Meyer built her research on the research of Gerd Hofstede, who I was showing to you before, and she made it really relevant to working internationally in business. She created a number of 7 various dimensions relating to how people communicate, how people give feedback, how people react to structures and to the role of the leader, how people take decisions, how people build trust, how people express disagreement, how people approach to scheduling, and how people convince each other. Okay, so these dimensions refer to a book by Erin Meyer. The title of this book is A Culture Map, and I like it because it refers directly to business situations. We can see Poland on 7 dimensions here, and you will notice that the position of Poland is quite central for many of these dimensions, and this is precisely where the answers to our question from this Q&A session comes from. Okay, let's look at how we are perceived by our nearest neighbor and our biggest economic partner, the Germany. Now you can see the Poland is in blue, and you can see that Germany here is in red. And if you look at these graphs here, I wonder what's your first impression, what you notice. You might share in the chat. Uh, well, the fact is that we have more in common than we could imagine. Yes. Yeah. And yet we can always claim that they are, for example, they are so, yes, so punctual. We would be thinking about the German colleagues, and the stereotype the other way is that they are always so chaotic. Yes, they never plan enough. Now, when you look at these 2 graphs, you will notice that in many dimensions, our position is very close. For example, in communicating, yes, you mentioned that the Polish people might be perceived as direct. Well, the German culture is also in the side of communicating very directly. And this means, okay, we seem to be similar to each other. What creates the perceptions and the common, let's say, knowledge or perception of the other country is the place where the cultural dimensions actually show the biggest gap. So what we want to look at here in this slide is to look for dimensions where the cultural gap is the biggest. And you can see them here. For example, can you recognize this? Deciding. Yes, there is a big cultural gap. So generally there is a lot of similarity, but there will be some dimensions where there is really a culture gap, and this is precisely the place where you get to hear about Polish people, what the Polish people are really like. Yes, the other one on this particular graph is here. Yes, it relates to scheduling. Yes, and this is how these perceptions appear. We look at the dimension of scheduling, and we know that how do they look at us, what do they talk about us Polish people? Well, they are always late. Yes, they never approach scheduling the right way. They are very relaxed when it comes to planning. They act spontaneously. Yes, it's chaotic. This is what we might hear from some of our German colleagues. Why? Because their position on this particular graph on this particular dimension is much more extreme towards a very strict approach to planning, being on time, trying to know everything in advance and put it in a plan, and being very rigid on punctuality and so on. I hope that you are already getting a grasp, yes, of how this is working. Let's look at the other one. Deciding, yes. We look at our German colleagues. Why do they take so long in making decisions? It takes ages. While what do they think about us? Polish decisions are chaotic, spontaneous. They are never thought over. They are careless. Yes, this is the perception. So now, looking at this very common simple example, we can look at some other cultures and discover what do people talk about Poland. Yes, what do foreigners really think about Poland? So now, when we look at various German speaking countries, you will see that they basically follow the same pattern. Yes, so when we look at the perception of our neighbors, colleagues from the German speaking countries, they will be very similar, basically looking at us as more or less similar, but with some with some distinctions. But we don't have to get out of Europe to discover much bigger culture gap. Even countries like Denmark, just one country away, yes, Poland, Germany, the next country is Denmark, you discover that they have quite a different approach to business culture. So, how do they perceive us? Look at the biggest culture gaps. This is how where the perceptions appear. They perceive us as, can you see this one? Leading. They perceive us as focused on hierarchy, as a traditional role of a leader, yes, and an extremely top-down approach to decision making. This is what we know thanks to a cultural dimension. We know how in general, what might be the perception of Danish people on the Polish people. Okay, I hope you're getting it well. Um, there will be, however, other countries that might claim completely the opposite. Uh, on the contrary, they will see us, Polish people, as preferring flat structures, yes, and even lacking understanding of a role of a leader really means, of what authority really means, yes. For example, in their perception, we do it by navigating around official communication channels and around avoiding the top-down approach. In some cultures, here you've got a graph showing the profile, the cultural profile of an Indian culture. Yes, so now it becomes tricky because you can see that the perception really depends on who is looking at us. And this perception might get even more extreme. Yes, many of us work with customer service centers from Philippines, professional colleagues. Who will perceive us as very relaxed in terms of structure, and also taking a long time to take a decision, and also very rigid in planning. Do you get the point? Okay. This is why the question of how are we perceived as Polish people, this question can never be satisfied in a way, because it always depends on who is looking at us. So now I'm showing you our frequent business partners as well, the British and Americans, and I want to ask you a question. Please tell me in the chat, how do they perceive us? What do the Brits and Americans would think about Polish people? Okay, now it's a closing question, a kind of a quiz. To what extent you have become able to read the cultural profiles? Okay, let's have a look at the chat. How do they perceive us, and which of them might be the most challenging? While I'm waiting for the answers from you, I know I'm learning this with YouTube that it takes a longer time than in Zoom or in Teams to get your answers. I will also comment a little bit. Your position on this cultural profile on this scale is like as if you were tied with a rubber band. So the closer another culture is to you, the more comfortable you feel because they seem to be so similar, yes, just like us. The bigger the cultural gap, the more you need to stretch to be able to work together from both sides, yes? And this is as if you had a rubber band holding you, yes, holding you and pulling you back into your natural cultural preference. Mhm. And you can see the advantages of the central position of Polish culture in most of the dimensions. You can see where this incredible cross cultural flexibility comes in terms of a Polish culture. Yes, it's much easier to stretch this way or to stretch this way than to start from an extreme position. Like, look at the American culture, it is quite extreme in two dimensions, and it's not easy for our American colleagues to read between the lines. Just like you wrote, Shumek, we are high context people in communication. Mhm. Absolutely, they had to focus on low context communication as US was built on cross-cultural people. There is always a historical explanation why we have chose our ways of behaving this way. And you can see how much more flexible Poland is when it comes to cooperating, for example, with Indians or colleagues from the Philippines. Now you can see the advantage of this, let's say, mixed answer to what we are as Polish people. So the conclusion here is what you hear about Polish people depends on who you hear it from. But I hope that looking at some of this research from Gerd Hofstede and from Erin Meyer actually gave you a hint of how to read the cultural diversity. I want to summarize with the most common opinions and observations from foreigners on Polish people, and you can see them here in the slides. Strong work ethic and commitment. Yes, this is repeated. You've mentioned this in the Menti in the beginning. Good education, technical competencies. I've just been talking to Netflix, who is setting up a big research center here in Poland, just because they value the Polish engineering and the technical approach very much. Flexibility and resourcefulness, it might be very useful in business situation. Hospitality, yes, and strong social bonds. This is what we usually hear about the Polish culture. What can be challenges? Well, Francisco, you've mentioned a little bit of this directness in communication. It means that it might be perceived as confrontational. Hierarchy, yes, in the workplace, after all, especially when cooperating, when perceived by our Western colleagues. Difficulty giving or receiving feedback, it's a consequence of the structured organizations. Well, let's remember our colleagues from India think the opposite, okay, about us. But knowing some stereotypes is not really knowing Polish people, yes, or dealing with Polish people. So this is why we have opened sessions which are about welcome to Poland, where we guide foreigners coming to Poland for work or life on the best practice in Polish business culture. So if you in your company employ foreigners or expect foreigners to arrive, please seriously consider getting away from stereotypes and getting into a much more practical knowledge of working with Polish people and living in Poland. Today, we have focused the Q&A session on what foreigners think about Polish people. And indeed, it is one of the most frequently asked questions in our cross-cultural trainings. And the second most frequent question is, how can we cooperate with colleagues from India? So this is why we have opened a session on cooperating with colleagues from India. These are open trainings. They are scheduled for this autumn. So if you feel that this might be something for you, or for your fellow colleagues, please check your options for enrollment. And there is a little bit more information in the link pasted by Aga Lesińska in the chat. So, welcome to Poland, cooperation with colleagues from India. Uh, I also want to thank you for joining our live session, for being the companions in my first YouTube experience. And we've got a little gift for you. And this gift is a discount code. So if one of you or somebody from your organization decides to take this opportunity and attend the Welcome to Poland training or the cooperating with colleagues from India training, we do give you a discount, and it's valid for the next 3 days only. And in the chat, you can see the discount code. It's only valid until Sunday. So please do make use of it if you like. Okay, you can see the code here in the chat and in the slide as well. Following this particular question of how to cooperate with colleagues from India, we also will be running the next ETTA Q&A session in a few weeks' time, and this particular session will be run in Polish. This is why this slide is in Polish. So if you are a Polish speaker and that's a topic for you, please do enroll. This session is open, free of charge, a half an hour format, just like this one. Dlaczego Hindusi zawsze mówią yes, nawet jeśli czegoś nie rozumieją? So why do they always say yes, even if they don't understand something? That's going to be the topic of this session, and we will also arrange this session through this channel of ETTA, and the recording will be available for those who register. So please do register if you like to discover a little bit more about this particular topic. Okay. We've come to the point when it's time to close. I would love to know from you. Please share in the chat. What's your tasty bite of today? What's your inspiration, your discovery, or maybe your practical conclusion? I will be closing this session now. So the official session time is going to be over in a moment, but I will stay. If you have any questions, you can share them in the chat, and I will try to answer whatever comes to your mind about around this topic. Love to stay in touch. Thank you so much, and hope to see you in our next ETTA session, ETTA Q&A session, if you are a Polish speaker. Thanks a lot. Reading your comments now, and if you have a question, you can stay with me and ask. Yes, Schumek, I can see your comment around Hofstede. Yes, I'm so glad, really. He was an old guy already after 80 plus years old. But with a very vivid mind and I think a lot of heritage. I also spent some time at the university where he was researching, a university of Groningen. Yes, that's a university in the Netherlands. I even was able to go into the archives of a library, of the university library, and watch his papers, his cultural maps, how he was designing with his handwriting. So that's quite amazing. So I did this library visit 2 or 3 years ago, but obviously I met him a number of years back when I was after I graduated. I thought I would stay in science and academia. I was much more active in that area. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Let's see your comment. Is this a question? All the above. There is less planning because the goal is not to do the things well. Absolutely, Francesco. You had a very good comment here. That's very relevant. Okay. I have checked for questions. I can see no more questions coming up, which is very good as well. I hope to stay in touch. I also want to be, so I'm saying it now personally for all of you. Thank you for, handling a little bit of my technical anxiety here in the YouTube, but I think the outcome was acceptable. It was quite good actually to be in touch with you and see you next time.